Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a few seconds at the bottom of the hour. Thank you for joining us today.
And we want to be done at 1 o'clock Central, or I'm sorry, 1:30 Central, right?
1:30, that's correct.
All right. Okay.
We could technically finish at 1:20. We need to
Yeah.
have 50 minutes for
Okay. Yeah. No, I've got I'll need that extra 10 minutes. So
all right. It's the bottom of the hour, so Brian, the floor is yours.
all right. Well, thank you, Dawn, and hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar here at 12:30 Central. We hopefully we'll have few others straggle in here as we kind of get started. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence and kind of how that affects the finance folks. And we got a lot to cover in a short amount of time here, the next hour or so. And so these are the things that I kind of want to hit on to some degree. Some of these will be a little higher level. Some of these we'll dig into. We'll do some hopefully fun things towards the end, but this really is kind of encapsulates kind of what we want to go through. And so you might, well, I should say this before we move on. You might feel like artificial intelligence is kind of it's kind of hard to get your arms around sometimes, and it's advancing so fast that it's easy for any of us to get left behind. And so we're going to talk about ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini are kind of the big ones, but it's really touching every single industry out there. And so but I want to start before we get into kind of the hardcore AI stuff, talk about robotic process automation. And so, robotics used to be not too long ago when I was younger. It was something. I grew up in Michigan, and so we saw robotics come into the automotive manufacturing space. Now they're in a lot of production facilities. But this kind of on the left there, you see, this has been going on for decades here in production and manufacturing. On the bottom.
Brian, we're not seeing your presentation.
Oh, all right then. Okay, good to know. Let me try to fix that here. We were having trouble with the sound just a few minutes ago. So we got that fixed, but now you're not seeing what I'm trying to show you. So let's see if that helps. I'll just reshare it. That come back?
Nope, I'm still seeing your video.
All right. Well, let me unshare it and share it.
There we go. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. We've been struggling with Zoom here this week for some reason. So anyway, so you missed a great agenda slide, so you saw that. But this really is what I was talking about with the robotics and manufacturing. We're going to translate that into the accounting or the finance office, but robotics has been around for a long, long time. Of course, on the right-hand side, it's been in the healthcare space for not quite as long as manufacturing, but going on quite some time now. And so really the RPAs, we call it, robotics process automation, really is getting software robots in this case. So we're talking about finance. So we don't have the robotics like we do in the pictures on the screen here, but in the finance area, it's the same theory, the same process, the same technology, but we're using software robots instead of physical machinery to do things that people would normally do in the finance area. And so that can generally be equated to looking at a screen and extracting something from that screen. And generally that's a document or fields on a screen in a particular software product, extracting that data and then doing something with that just like we would as a person. So entering data or matching a purchase order with a receipt or an invoice with a purchase order and a receipt and so forth. And so so really it's the same thing as the hardware manufacturing and healthcare robotics, but we're doing that with software bots or robots instead. And just like these in the picture, they don't take a break, they don't go to lunch, they don't need time off, they don't get sick and so forth. And so there really is a lot of things that are happening with RPA in the finance space. So then artificial intelligence, well, how's that different? Or how's that different than robotics? Well, robotics or RPA is really part of a higher kind of overall umbrella of artificial intelligence. And so this, again, we're talking about software. So we talk about machines, but in this case, it's computers. So it's technology instead of physical robots. But really, we're talking about enabling machines, or in this case, computers, to simulate human intelligence. So not just do things quicker and faster and more accurate than any of us generally can do, but the AI really extends the robotics part into emulating human intelligence to actually make decisions and save people from actually doing that, or at least laying the groundwork for people to check those decisions instead of have to make those decisions. And so that's really an extension of the robotics from days gone by. So when it comes to robotic or some type of process automation in the finance office, instead of those physical robots, we're really talking about things like what you see on the screen here. So, and this is not, I put on the bottom of these lists hundreds more, because there literally are hundreds of things out there to mimic things that people used to do or would have to do in the finance area. But think companies like Bill, they used to be called Bill.com, but they go by Bill. So Bill is kind of a prominent one that is in the payments area and processing invoices to vendors and so forth. Avid Exchange, very similar to that. Highland OnBase is artificial intelligence around document management and workflow and approvals and so forth. And then, of course, Microsoft Power Automate, which you probably all have heard of, some of you might be using. That's more of a whiteboard where you can create forms, and you can add workflow to those forms to actually move approvals or transactions through your own system. And again, those are the ones that we kind of see on a regular basis, but there are hundreds and hundreds more. And then on the right side of the screen are really the productivity tools, again, kind of crossing from RPA into more of the artificial intelligence. And so you all know about ChatGPT. We'll talk a little more detail of that here in a minute. You probably have heard Microsoft has Copilot. Google has Gemini, which used to be called Bard, B-A-R-D. They've rebranded that Gemini here a few months ago. Those are kind of the big three. And then Grammarly's been around probably for 2 decades on trying to help you get your wording and your grammar and so forth correct in a document or an email. And again, there's hundreds and hundreds more of these kind of personal productivity tools. So just a couple of quick seconds on some of these RPA solutions that we see on a regular basis. This is actually the Bill screen. So this again allows us to take vendor invoices into an email, or if we scan those into the system, I guess if you are still receiving a fax, if you know what that is. I've heard their fax machines are still out there some places. You could have a fax copy, but any kind of electronic copy of a vendor invoice or a physical copy could be put into the bill system, and then the workflow kicks off and routes that around for approvals, and ultimately comes back to whatever accounting system you have and creates a journal entry or creates a payables transaction, which then creates a journal entry over to the GL for that voucher, that vendor invoice. And so, of course, there's steps along the way. There still can be and should be some human interaction there to make sure all this stuff is correct. But they're trying to take some of the mundane tasks that we do when we enter vendors' invoices into our system every day. You'll see there in the yellow that Bill has done some research, and they feel like a solution like theirs really cuts down the payables process itself by at least 50%. So if you think about people spending a lot of time on that on a daily basis, if you could cut half of that time out, then those folks could do some other things that maybe have higher value. So this is a couple of screenshots from Sage Intacct, which we do a lot of work with. This is called our general ledger outlier detection artificial intelligence. And so the system is constantly looking at transactions that are flowing through the software, and it sees if something looks out of place. Now, it's not smart enough to know if it completely is correct or incorrect. So it's always going to produce a list of things for the user or the kind of the control person here to evaluate. But if it sees an invoice from Office Depot, for example, maybe it's coded to to entertainment or meals or something. Well, the outlier detector is going to say, hey, generally Office Depot vendor invoices don't go into meals and entertainment. So it's going to create an exception and say, I want somebody to look at that. And it could be a coding error that like that. So Office Depot is coded to the wrong account. It could be a dollar outlier that, we spent $50,000 at Panera Bread or something. That would be an outlier, right? Normally, we don't have those kind of transactions with a quick service food facility. And so, and so what it's doing behind the scenes is kind of looking at every transaction and telling us, hey, there could be something wrong. And then as the end user, we can step in and say, no, this is fine. And then the intelligence will update itself like, okay, that's no longer an outlier. And so I'm not going to look for that to be an exception anymore. Or generally, in my kind of wild examples, it's the human's going to say, oh yeah, those are wrong. So we miscoded, we miskeyed. It should have been a $50 invoice, not a $50,000 invoice for Panera Bread. And so we're going to be able to fix those things before they make their way over to the general ledger. So that's really what AI is doing for us in the finance area. This is shipping product, everything you've seen here. This is stuff that you can buy today. And so let's move on to a little bit more detail. So Dawn, I think we have our first poll question here.
Awesome. I will pull that up. And just to note, everyone, if you are here for CPE credit, there will be a total of 4 poll questions that you must answer to be eligible for that credit. And just a little bit of housekeeping. Following the webinar, give me 48 hours. But following the webinar, I'll send out an email that has the recording, a copy of Brian's slides, and a short survey for you to fill out. And as I said, allow up to 48 hours. If you are looking forward to a CPE certificate, that comes from another area of our business. And I will submit that. And they ask that you allow 2 weeks for delivery of the certificate. And if you do not get the certificate within 2 weeks, I'll put my email in the chat. Contact me, and my email will be on the follow-up with the slides and the recording, and I will chase that down for you. I've only had to do it twice in 2 years, so I'm fairly confident that you'll get it. All right, let me give this a few more seconds. Again, remember, if you're here for CPE, you need to answer all poll questions. And we're taking a look at how are you using AI today in your organization? Daily, saving us a lot of time. Just now thinking about how to use AI. We've used it once in a while. Not sure what we can do with it right now. So I'll end the poll and I'll share the results with everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, about what I would have expected there. A lot of people new to it. It's new, obviously, but a lot of people are still trying to figure out what can I really do with it. There's a lot of talk out there, but how's that apply to me, especially in a work environment? So, all right, so let's kind of dig into some of the AI options here. So the key players I mentioned, Microsoft, they have Copilot, OpenAI, which they're the author of ChatGPT. It is interesting, though, that Microsoft has a fairly large stake in GPT, and they also host all of that technology in their Azure data centers. And then Google, of course, with Gemini. We'll talk a little bit about Crayon and Midjourney as far as image creation. There's some kind of cool slash scary things going on with that right now as well. So we'll have time for that towards the end. So I put this slide up here. I'm not going to go through these, but this is when you get the slides, you can kind of go through and see kind of by major category what some of the go-to players are that are out there. So AI is everywhere. I think we all probably know that now. Every industry, you know, you name it. If your industry isn't in the 3 or 4 there that I listed, it's in the everywhere. Within departments, you know, sales, marketing, finance, which we're kind of focused on today, customer service. I mean, it literally is all over. You've probably all been online, you know, with some company and their little chat bot pops up to ask you, hey, we see you on the site. You know, is there anything we can help you with? That used to be a person back in the day, like 5 years ago. That's really not a person. There's probably no one that's a human that's behind those bots today. And you know that because it could be late, you know, midnight, 2 in the morning. You can't sleep and you're online looking at, you know, Dell's website or Lenovo or something, and those little bots pop up. Well, those are robotics. And so, and then personal. So your car has AI, whether you see it or not. You know, if you have an electric car like a Tesla or something, you interact with the AI. It's out there, whether you talk to it or work with it, but the manufacturers, even like Ford, I have AI in Ford Expedition. It's in your phone, of course, and your house in a lot of ways. If you have Siri or anything of the sort, that's AI. So we'll talk first about Copilot. We've got some of the pros up here and cons. Obviously, it's Microsoft, and so as you would expect, it's going to work and be deeply integrated with the Microsoft products that we all use, and I'm using today, right now. So Word, Excel, Teams, PowerPoint, and so forth. So if you're a big Microsoft user of the Office or the Microsoft 365 products, then Copilot for M365 or Office 365 is really what that is. Copilot for the Office products is highly valuable in things that you're doing. I'm going to show you Copilot just from a browser. So we'll see what we can do with it without actually paying anything. And put some benefits there. It's really good at drafting emails in Outlook. The kind of the joke is, you know, you can get the artificial intelligence to create an email and send it. And then when someone on the other end replies, the artificial intelligence can look at the reply. It can summarize what is in the reply and give that to you. And then if the person on the other end starts using Copilot, in this case, actually the two AI bots can actually communicate back and forth and just tell us as humans, lowly humans, what's going on and what we need to know. So a little kind of out there, kind of Jetsons type, if you remember what that is, but a little scary, but some very good use of technology and does tend to save us a lot of time. So Copilot's really good for document management. It's good for data analytics, which you'll see probably in all of them because they all kind of are, you know, it's intelligence, right? So they're really good at looking and analyzing data. And as I mentioned, anyone using the Microsoft 365, which is really the Office products. On the right side, it can get costly if you use the Microsoft 365 version. Those seats cost money. Not a lot, but if you have a lot of people, then it can add up. And so here's the cost. There is a free version. Again, I'm going to show you that here in a second, but just Copilot licensed to you as an individual is only $20 a month, not super expensive. But if you want the version that works with the Office products, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and so forth, that's $30 a month. And so, and again, if you just buy one for yourself to use at home, not terribly expensive. For the 30, you get everything that's in the $20 version. So you're not paying both, you're just paying one or the other. But, you know, if you have an organization, you have 1,000 Microsoft 365 or Office users, that can tend to be quite a bit of money on a monthly basis. So, but it is kind of cool what you can do with it. So, again, I'm going to flip over to the free version. This runs in Chrome or Edge. When Microsoft first built it, it only ran in Edge. but then they figured out what the rest of is known is like 1% of the people use Edge as a browser. So they opened it up in Chrome, and I've got some examples here, but let me close this out and we'll go to Copilot. And it's Copilot really.microsoft.com. I have an account. You do have to create an account. But it's free. So this is stuff you can use like literally right now at no cost. And so, we won't have time to do a ton of things, but we'll just ask it to test me on my accounting knowledge and see what it comes back with. And so it takes a few seconds, and of course, depending on how busy it is. So it's posed some pretty simple questions here, so we won't have time to answer all of them, but I'll say assets are equal to liabilities and capital equity and see if it grades me. Okay, so yep. All right. Yeah, if we had more time, I'd answer all of them, but and you never know what this is going to pop up. So obviously it was basic, and so that's good. But anybody that's in the finance area probably could answer all of these as easily as I could, or maybe even better. So that's the intelligence part, right? It creates the questions. I have no idea what it's going to create, and then it grades my answers and generally gives me a little bit of content around why that answer is out there. Now, if I answer one wrong, then it would get me a lot more information on why the answer is wrong. So let's do one more thing, and we'll say, and you don't have to be polite with the AI. You don't have to use please, thank you. It does not at all recognize any of that stuff. So you don't have to waste the typing. So I ask it to tell me a joke. And so, yeah, and again, it's the risk is you don't know what it's going to come up with here. I didn't really specify a comical or a funny joke, but that's not horrible. So then I'm going to say, let me tell you one. We'll see what it says. And so, all right, so it's kind of like interacting with a person, right? So because it's artificial intelligence. So and you'll notice I'm trying to misspell a couple of the words here just to show that it doesn't have to be perfect. And so I put a skeleton walks into a bar and asks for a drink and a mop. And the AI says, that's a funny one. I guess the skeleton knew things might get a bit messy. And so, so I want to show you the actual intelligence now coming to light. So it kind of says, it gets it, right? It knows why that's a funny joke. If I do this in person, sometimes I get a lot of blank stares, like I don't get the joke. And so, so I'm going to ask the intelligence, why is this even funny? So, and this is the difference between just searching out data on the internet. So you can't get this stuff out of a Google search. And so it has to actually analyze in this case, the joke, and tell me why it's funny. Well, skeleton, obviously, if it takes a drink, if that were possible, it's not going to go anywhere except on the floor. So the skeleton's being polite and says, I'm going to drink something, but then I'm going to mop it up because I have nothing inside of the bones here. So anyway, good Halloween time joke. Again, don't have to be funny, but that's kind of a good one so that the intelligence can actually evaluate the statement here and echo back, why that is even a joke. And so, all right, so let's go back to the slides. We'll talk about kind of the next one on the list here. Okay, so ChatGPT, that's the one that everybody knows about. It was the first one out. There's pretty good basis to say that Microsoft Copilot is probably sitting on top of ChatGPT, but that's not Microsoft saying that. That's me. So don't take that for 100% fact, but I think it is kind of out there that GPT really is the basis for all of these things. And so chat, of course, meaning chatbot. So you know what those are. And then GPT is generative, meaning it generates on demand. So it's not like a Google search where it's looking at static information on a whole bunch of different websites and just bringing that back and surfacing that back for us to look at and evaluate and click on. And then pre-trained, meaning that it's already smart. So, like most of us, we have some intelligence to us. And then transformer is I always say they needed a cool word to put in there to make the T work. But there are two distinct versions of GPT. So some of you might have played around with the free version. That's version 3.5. The problem is it was built in 2021 and it has not been updated since. And so anything that's happened or discovered from 2022, 23, and now almost all of 24, version 3.5 does not know about. So you do run the risk if you use that free version that if you're looking for current information and facts and discoveries or inventions, it doesn't know anything about those. So because the data set cut off at the end of 2021. So it has about 300 billion words. And so, which sounds like a lot to me, but the better way for GPT is to use the paid version. And so that's version 4. And I'll show you the price here in a minute, but not expensive, very competitive, like the Microsoft Copilot we looked at. But just keep in mind, if you look at the free one, don't use it for anything really serious unless you're looking for stuff that is a little bit old at this point. So GPT is, I would say, the worst at making things up, and it's been known to do that. And so, that's okay in some areas like, politics. It's not okay in things like finance. So you really can't make stuff up. I know there's kind of the go-to example of this is an attorney, a true story, but an attorney used GPT several years ago to prepare for a court date and actually had a court case that this attorney wanted to present as a basis for whatever they were arguing on. And I think it was in the US tax court and brought a cite from a case that did not exist and never happened. GPT just made it up. They call it hallucinating now. So that's hallucinations were something different and before I was born and when I was a kid. But today hallucinations, when you're talking about artificial intelligence, is it just goes off the rails and just creates stuff instead of saying I don't know or I don't have enough data. It just creates stuff. And so that is really, really dangerous. This attorney got in a whole lot of trouble for presenting a case that never happened and had all the facts and the conclusion and everything. So that's kind of over the line of you got to really be careful on what you're doing here. So even the paid version can be capable of that. So, this stuff isn't perfected yet, but it's getting there. So GPT, it's very good at conversational. It is probably the best to be able to actually have conversation like two people talking. The intelligence really does a good job at conversing with someone. So you saw a little bit of that in the Copilot when we were talking about the jokes, and I was kind of interacting with the intelligence kind of on a person-to-person level. It's very good with communications. It's written content, brainstorming, generating program code. So you probably heard a lot about, development, and developers love this because they can ask the intelligence to help them create a code structure to do a particular process, and GPT will do that. And it's really, really, really good at that. The bad part again is, it can do things that it shouldn't. And so it's, I see here I have a pro, help with drafting, communications, and problem solving, and I have a con, help with drafting, communications, and problem solving. So that is me doing that. So I could blame that on ChatGPT because I just said how it can go off the rails. So I could have said, oh, I asked GPT and look here what it did. So, but nope, that was me. So actually, other than the first one there, the two cons don't belong. It's really good for research, so much better than Google. Google is, surfaces a lot of information and data that you may or may not want to look at, but you have to sort through a lot of that to actually get to what you're after. Your intelligence, it's much, much more pinpointed on bringing back the data you want. And so much like Copilot's very good at data analytics and so forth. So what's GPT cost? Well, there's a free version. So that's the 3.5. That's the one that is, 2021 and earlier. So as we move forward in time, that one has less and less value. But if you want to just buy GPT-4 for yourself, $20 a month. So same as Microsoft. And then they have some kind of work related for small teams and then larger teams available as well. So not wildly expensive really at all. So, and Dawn, I think we're up to our second poll here.
Yes, we are. So here's poll question number 2. Are you interested in having LBMC Tech explain how to use AI in your organization and how might you benefit from AI? So if you are looking to get started right away, I'd probably answer yes within the next few months. And if you're still researching, thinking about it, we have an option maybe in the next 12 months. And then the final option is we have no plans to use AI at all. Give you a few more seconds, and one of the attendees asked me to count this down so that you're sure to get your answer in before I close down the poll. So I will be closing it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to share the results.
Okay. Yeah, also kind of what I would have expected. So the people that said no plans, a year from now or less, if we ask that same question, I suspect that answer would change. A lot of folks do ask us, do I need to be doing something with this? And if so, what? And that's really what we can help with. Every business is different, but a lot of folks will ask, especially on the finance side, there's a fear that, hey, this stuff looks like it could replace me, if I do payables all day, or maybe I'm the general ledger accountant or something, or even creating financial reports or dashboards. Is this going to take my job? My answer is always, you're not going to lose your job to artificial intelligence. You may use your job to someone that knows how to use artificial intelligence. And so in that, I kind of stick by. So if you are not kind of at least playing around with this on a personal level, it's usually a good idea to start, because this will be in the workplace in very short order. Okay, thanks, Dawn. So GPT, we don't have time to do all this live, so I picked out a few things. This wasn't one of them, but I did ask GPT to generate some common financial ratios from some data I uploaded I uploaded the sample financial statements from QuickBooks Online, just because that's, we see a lot of that out there. This is Craig's Design and Landscape. If you have used QuickBooks in the past, you probably recognize that name. And so GPT is very good at that. Now, these are pretty simple. I could do this, any of us could, but why not, why not let the intelligence do that? So it went through, it figured out the current assets, current liabilities to come up with my current ratio, and then more of an acid test ratio, which is a subset of current assets over current liabilities. And so that's part of the strength of any of these, but GPT especially. So here's an article. This is a little over a year old, but still relevant. These are some simple things you can do with any of them, but this was specifically around GPT. Part of it is test my knowledge, quiz yourself, the third one down, which I did in Copilot there really quick. And so, all of these tools will actually learn your writing style. and then they can write. So if you're answering email or you ask it to create a document in Word or whatever it might be, once they learn your style, they will then mirror that or pattern what it's writing after your own style. So because otherwise it's going to look like when you read something, it's like, ooh, that looks like it was maybe written by GPT or Copilot or Gemini. But once the intelligence learns kind of how you write and speak and so forth, speak meaning, type, create content, it will quickly adapt to what your style is. So very cool. All right, so let's talk about Google Gemini. That's the other one of the big three. So pros and cons, pretty similar with one exception on the con side. This one is the newest version. So, it's kind of getting up to speed. It's getting better like literally daily, but you might see it maybe not have as much data available as what the other two do. But Google, because they're Google, just like Microsoft and GPT, OpenAI, they are investing heavily in this and spending a lot of time and lots of money in making changes, sometimes daily, but definitely on a weekly basis. And so we see these things changing every time I go into it. It's got something new and improved and so forth. So the Google Gemini and the Microsoft Copilot are all real time. The GPT is the only one that the free version is the older one, the 3.5 from 2021 and earlier. So if you want current stuff, you really want to stick to either the paid version of GPT or the online version of Copilot or Gemini. Okay, so price, well, magically it's the same. So nobody's going to pay more for one of these than the other when the other two are out there. So still $20 a month. If you have an organization, you want the more enterprise level, then $30 a month. So identical to Microsoft and GPT. If you call them and get the enterprise price, it's $29.95. So virtually the same. Okay, so I snuck another poll question in. So in case people
Brian, do you want to field a question while I pull up the poll question?
absolutely can do that.
Okay. And the question is there any concern of sharing financial data on ChatGPT from a security measure?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the answer is yes. And so on 3.5, I would never put anything in there that that I considered private in any way, shape, or form. And so that one's just a no-no. If you pay for version 4, that is a little more secure because you have the option of them not storing your data, so your queries, and so that is safer. Would I say any of them are 100% foolproof safe? I wouldn't say that right yet because they're all very new, but I can tell you do not use 3.5 with GPT if there's any kind of confidential requirements around the data that you're interacting with the AI with. So
All right. So our poll question, it's our third poll question. Where do you see AI benefiting your business? And the first one is cybersecurity, operational efficiencies and reduced manual work, sales and marketing support, connecting disparate systems and data silos, or the last one, and this is multiple choice. You can answer more than one if you wish, finance operations. So I'll give this a few more seconds.
yeah, and these are good ones, Dawn. And we probably could have listed 100 things out there and
Right.
virtually checked them all. And it may not be today, but as I said a couple of minutes ago, on the last poll question, if you're not using artificial intelligence anywhere today, you will be. And so as long as you're on this planet, you will be doing it. And so you might say I'm not, but you can come back and tell me in 6 or 12 months, oh, Brian was right, I am, because we'll be forced into it. It's like anything else. It's like saying, hey, I'm gonna be in the business world and not have access to the internet. It's not happening, right? So, or I'm going to be alive and not have internet on my phone or at my home, not going to happen. So it's going to be that prominent in our lives.
Excellent. So I'm going to end the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'll share the results with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone looking for operational efficiencies and reduced manual work.
Yep. And that's perfect. That's exactly what the intelligence is for. So, okay, so I've got Gemini open on my screen here. Make sure you can still see that, Dawn, since I think I might have lost it early on, but can you see the
I
still?
can.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, good.
Gemini.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm just going to ask this one a little something different than I did with Copilot. So I'll say provide the history of accounting um, in 2,000 words. Otherwise, we could be here a while, and even 2,000 words, it takes a few seconds. That's probably faster than most of us could look the information up. So if you think about a Google search, you're going to spend some time trying to get to the data. And this is, it's pretty close to instantaneous. And it's broken this up, nice and neat, where I could copy and paste this, maybe tweak it a little bit for myself. And so that's good. That's kind of cool. So um, let's say now do it using an, all right, I can't misspell everything, using an 8th grade reading level. Okay, so again, it senses that, it goes back, it rewrites it at an 8th grade reading level. I could do the same thing and ask it for, a doctoral level type thing, and it would, enhance the language accordingly. So again, you're not going to be able to Google that stuff out like that. So that's part of why you would use the intelligence instead of just simple Google searches for things like that. Okay, so the last section today is I want to talk about voice mimicking and the Mid-Journey and creating, using artificial intelligence to create people that look like us, or in some cases better. And so voice mimicking is kind of a thing right now. It is a problem because a lot of banks use voice authorization for transactions. That was thought to be safer than having a password or some kind of a code or a fob or something that acted as the dual authentication, dual factor, multi-factor authentication. That's not the case anymore. So voice mimicking has made those things really, really risky. We see heard a lot of stories about kidnappings that are fake, where maybe a grandparent gets a call from a grandchild, and it's that child's voice saying, so, I got arrested and out of the country. I need, $5,000 wired, in the next hour or something. And people are doing that because it literally is the voice that they recognize as a family member. And so I put a little quiz down here. We can't raise our hands, but I'll let you kind of answer it. So how long do you think the intelligence needs to perfect the sound and fluctuation and everything to literally recreate your unique voice? Do you think an hour of hearing your voice would be enough? Seems like a long time. Maybe 10 different versions of your voice, because they're all a little different depending on if we just rolled out of bed, or we've been to a sporting event and barely have a voice. Or do you think 30 seconds is enough time for the intelligence to completely and accurately mimic your voice? So I'd have you raise your hand, but I'll tell you the answer. It is C. 30 seconds is generally more than enough time. I've seen it done in 10 seconds, but we'll say 30 is kind of the standard, but could be 10 to 15 seconds. So that's how fast the intelligence can actually become your voice. So here, lucidpick.com, you can create people. So, if you have advertising or marketing and so forth, and you're paying for images for people on websites or brochures and other content type things that get created with images. There's usually a royalty there, and if it's someone really famous, there's a really big royalty. Well, you can go in and you'll see on the left there, these are expansions. You can create your own person, and you don't have to pay anybody at all. There's about a $20 fee to do this on the site, and you can build your own people. So maybe nicer than some of the rest of us. Okay, I thought this was interesting. I just put this in a couple of days ago. I've got the link down there at the bottom, so if you wanted to go get this, but this really is around deep fake, and that's what Midjourney is creating people as well, or images. Doesn't have to be people, but just images of things that sometimes don't exist. And so 75% of organizations, and this article came out 2 days ago, so relatively current information, but 75% of organizations have experienced at least one deep fake related incident in the last year. And so, so keep that in mind. And then I'll show you what deep fake really does. And this is using Midjourney. And so Midjourney. And so this is kind of the go-to solution to create things just from the intelligence itself. We're not scanning a picture in, we're just letting the intelligence create. And so we'll do a couple of things here as a quiz for the last few minutes that we have. So one of these owls was drawn by Picasso, famous artist. The other one was created by Midjourney. So again, if we were in person, I'd have you raise your hands. But most people generally think the simple one on the left, very basic. Oh, that probably wasn't Picasso, but actually it was. That apparently he had other talents, but owl drawing maybe wasn't his best. The one on the right was created purely from artificial intelligence, just by telling it what you wanted. Here's a statue, two statues. So one of these is a real statue that was excavated from Egypt. The other one created by Midjourney. So again, if you look at it, there's a vast difference. The one on the left, you would normally think is more realistic, but it's not. The one on the left is Midjourney's rendition of this statue. The one on the right is actually the real statue. So Claude Lorraine, again, famous painter, he painted one of these, and Midjourney painted one of these. So one of them's kind of crisp, the one on the right, lots of detail. The one on the left, though, is actually the real painting by the real artist. All right, maybe a little harder. So we've got a young lady and then Mark Zuckerberg. So if you look at these, one of them is the real person, and one of them is Midjourney. So the one on the right is actually the real person in both cases. The young lady and Mark's image on the left were created with Midjourney. So you start to see that the intelligence is very, very capable of creating things out of thin air, so to speak, and that can be a little bit over the danger line. And so a couple of more here. So here's 4 different images of some young ladies here. Looks like they're at a party of sorts. And so if we were in person, I might have you say or raise your hand. Do you think any of these look like they could be fake? They all look pretty realistic if you kind of look at their eyes and so forth. Well, then I would skip over here and say every person in every image here is completely fake, created from the intelligence Midjourney. And how can you tell? Well, it doesn't do a good job with digits yet. So, and digits meaning fingers and toes generally, and fingers, it just doesn't get right. So you don't notice that the first time through because you're looking at their faces and they all look very, very, very real, but actually none of these people exist. And so in the digits and at least 2 of those spots there kind of give it away. So here, I won't say anything about the presidents here, but so good looking dogs here and 2 people we recognize on the right. 100% of these completely faked with Midjourney. So these are not photographs at all. These were created with artificial intelligence. So again, you kind of start to see the scary side of this intelligence. So the top row here, there's these 5 faces were judged most often to be real humans, and only the gentleman that I've highlighted there, second from the right, is the only human there. The other 4 created with artificial intelligence. The bottom row is just the opposite. Those were most often selected by people to be created with intelligence. The only one that was created with Midjourney was the young lady directly under the man that was the human, so that I've highlighted there. Every other one in the bottom row is a real person, except the AI female. And to me, she looks more like the real person than the other 4. So that's how your mind really can not tell the difference anymore from what AI is doing versus what we really are. So just a couple of more here. So looks pretty realistic. This completely fake. This young girl does not exist. Couple of nice folks here on vacation, nice bridge in the background. You can't see their fingers, but you know, if you look at their eyes and their teeth and so forth, their facial features, you know, you generally have to say this was real. But I would say neither one of them are. So these are completely created from the artificial intelligence. So same thing here, you kind of get the idea. Same thing here. And again, if you kind of look here, you're drawn into things that look real. But if we highlight the things that are not real, then you start to be able to spot the artificial intelligence not being perfect. But you know, even with the fingers not exactly right, you know, if you look at everything else, kind of scary on how close the AI can actually get, you know, people that look like real people. So you know, where's this going to go in the future? I don't know. But you know, it's fun right now, but this could be a dark side of using AI. So so far so good, except on the voice mimicking, that's become a problem. But just the artificial creation of people, at least you know online, don't really know, you know, what that'll turn into, but it's really good for advertising and marketing, again, because we can do this. We have no royalties. We can invent whoever we want to be on our website or brochures and so forth. So it is very good for that. Okay, so nice guy camping here with a pretty good looking dog. And yeah, if you look at everything there, looks pretty real. Well, the dog and the gentleman there are fake. Doesn't have to be just people. So this breakfast or lunch dish here, avocado toast of some sort, that's not a picture. That was created by Midjourney. So you can go, and again, you'll get these slides, as Dawn said, but whichfacesreal.com is where I pulled a lot of this information. And so you can go play around with that in your spare time. So Dawn, I think our last poll question is up.
Okay. Poll question number 4. LBMC technology offers a lot of different products and services. And so in this poll question, what I'm asking is, would you be interested in learning more about them? And you can choose more than one. Sage Intacct ERP, Microsoft Business Central, CRM, or now it's being called Customer Insights Journeys. Cybersecurity, that's probably one of the hottest products and services that we offer right now. We also offer help desk services and outsourced IT or IS.
Or none of the above, apparently. So um, pretty much
And
everything on there except help desk, and probably I shouldn't even say that, but pretty much everything on there involves or AI is available in these products or services. And so again, you will use it at some point. It's just a matter of when.
I'm going to close it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And are there any other questions sitting out there, Dawn, as you kind of bring up the?
Oops. No open questions.
Okay.
But last chance, folks, you can use the Q&A function if you'd like to ask Brian a question about anything that you've seen today.
Yeah, and as we kind of wrap up, thanks, Dawn. I was just going to point out that Dawn kind of on that last poll kind of led into this, but obviously we do a lot of things around automation, artificial intelligence, ERP, so accounting systems from Microsoft and Sage. A lot of those have integration and software development if we need to change something and bend those a little bit to better suit your needs or your business processes. And so do tons of that. And then, of course, over on the left, the traditional IT services. We can act as your IT department. We can support your IT department, especially if it's small and you got a person and they need to take some time off. We can always be a backup. We still have clients that have stuff down the hall on servers, and a lot of those folks are trying to get that stuff moved to the cloud. Even if they're not switching systems to cloud products, they generally don't want to be in the server business and have to keep the power and the internet and so forth on. They'd rather have Microsoft or Amazon kind of be responsible for that stuff. So we get up every day. There's about 120, 130 of us. We get up every day kind of thinking about how we can help your business, make your business better, and using the technologies and tools that are out there and keep you safe. And that, as Dawn said, cyber security is a really big thing right now, and safety is it's the number one thing we get asked about, and probably the number one thing we do on a consistent basis is to try to keep our customers, our clients, and their solutions and systems safe from the bad guys that are out there. So if you have questions, you can
We do. We have one question for you and one question for me. So the question for you is, have you played with Perplexity?
Oh, Perplexity. Yeah, good question. I have a little bit. I haven't found it to do anything that I can't do equally as well somewhere else. But yeah, I have. And there's probably 15 or 20 others that I played with some. Because there's lots of AI out there. I mean, I showed you kind of the big three, but there's dozens and dozens out there. Some are proprietary, and they're unique to where they fit, but there's a lot of public AI available as well. I still kind of come back to my comment that I believe, and this is just me, but I believe most of those are running on ChatGPT of some sort, but not all. But because why reinvent the wheel type thing, right? So, but yeah, so good, very good question. And the big three today might not be the big three 6 months from now, although Microsoft will probably be there, and GPT, they kind of were first, so you have to think they're there, but who knows? And then Google, of course, they don't like to be too far away from Microsoft on anything. So, but yeah, feel free to email questions in anytime. We're happy to answer them. And if I don't know, I can get you someone that does, and happy to help anytime we can. So anything else, Dawn, that?
Yes. The question for me is, did I share how to apply for CPE? So you don't have to do anything except answer the poll questions. Zoom webinar creates a report that I then submit to one of our sister companies, who then submit it for the generating the CPE certificates. And so if you've answered the poll questions, there's nothing that you need to do. We'll take care of it from here. And we ask that you allow up to 2 weeks to receive your CPE certificate. And if you don't get it within 2 weeks, I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. Just chase me down, Dawn.Westerberg at lbmc.com. And I will go looking for your CPE certificate. And I think that's it. Oh, maybe another question? No, we've answered them all.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I know this was really quick and a lot of information, but happy to sit down with anyone and talk about how it might fit for you specifically or your company. And we'll look forward to seeing you on our next presentation.
Thank you, Brian. Bye, everyone.
Done. Bye.